Yeah, I'm gonna bring them up.
So I tell you, so I will just ask Mr. Purvis to introduce the team and then
Sure.
go from there. So, okay. And then you can say, okay. So you're gonna let me know, IT, unless I missed it, that we are live, or?
No, we are not live yet. Or we may be right about as I start saying that. Give me 1 sec.
Hey, Marty, how's my, do I need to log out and log back in?
You're good, Eric.
Thanks.
This is Vance. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you, Vance. All right, everybody. We are live also, so take it away.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to your Apex Town Council's Personnel Committee meeting. Today is February the 18th. So to get us started, I'm going to, and I'll go ahead and introduce the other, I'm the chair of the Personnel Committee meeting, of the Personnel Committee, and Mayor Jock Gilbert is the member of the committee as well. And I'm going to now push it over to Assistant Town Manager Sean Purvis to introduce his team who will be presenting today. Thank you, Mr. Purvis.
Thank you, Ms. Dozier. So just as we've normally done, this is kind of a review of what is being proposed for the budget. So this is just kind of that first chance for members of council to see what's going on, offer any kind of thoughts, direction, ideas. This isn't necessarily that all these are proposed or recommended in the budget, but it's so that we have direction to know what you are thinking as we propose it to all the council, to all council. So we appreciate your time this afternoon to go over everything. There's a lot of folks on here, Ms. Dozier. So what I'll do is, as we get to each department and section, they'll be presenting individually. So it'll be good. They can introduce themselves at that point. I will tell you, I mean, we have just about every department or division with us this evening. I think there's 60 plus 61 or so positions, if you will. So there's a lot to go over. And I'll let them when we get to each section. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I think that'll kind of give us a good idea of whoops, that is not what I meant to share. Let's see here, try this again. All right. Can everybody see? Is that the cover slides? Everybody see the cover slide?
Yes.
All right, good. All right. And so here is our schedule, which is really our agenda for tonight. So you can see the different departments we have on there. And Marty will actually be kicking it off for us under admin. His two positions are first. And if you're ready to go, we'll jump right in, Ms. Dozier. We've tried to give about between 2 and 3 minutes per position, depending on the kind of complexity of the position, since there were so many, and trying to respect our time and make sure you and the mayor have enough time for questions for each, in case you or questions or comments if you have any. So,
okay, thank you so much. We're ready.
All right, it's all you, Marty.
All right, how do I advance it? I thought it was in the lower left corner.
Click on the screen on it where you. There you go. See it pops up. Then. Yeah.
All right. So I'm not sure why that's blocked out at the bottom, but we'll start. So administration has 3 positions. There is a development specialist under development services, a program support specialist under utilities acquisition specialist, which is also our real estate person. And there is a community engagement specialist under communications manager positions. I will be presenting for the first 2, and then Sean will present for the last. Okay, so the development specialist for development services is a position that is needed for a varying number of reasons, starting with everyone knows we continue to grow. You can see the chart on the right-hand side. We're very busy. Growth is projected to be very similar to the last couple of years, growing in some areas. We continue to add services to this department as well. This past year, we added electronic signature and approval process, which has been great. It's helped out a lot during the pandemic, but it does take more time for staff sometimes to actually review to make sure those things are done. And it's provided quite a bit of correspondence back and forth with the development community, making sure they knew what they needed to do. We've added stormwater control measures to the record drawing submittal process. And you'll see even in the chart, the encroachment agreements, the requirements that we're asking development services to take care of has increased, and thus the projected number of encroachments has increased. And you can see they've pretty much doubled each year of the last couple of years, and I anticipate that to continue to keep increasing. We have a lot of small lots in Apex, so we have a lot of easements, and so when anyone wants to put in a fence along their property, most of the time it involves an encroachment. A lot of times you have driveways if anything wants to get extended, or sidewalks, and a lot of things like that with townhomes end up creating encroachment situations. So that's an area where development services has been spending quite a bit of time. This group also manages our bond program for water resources, public works and transportation, and parks and rec. We have about $80 million in exposure right now, and approximately about 700 or so guarantees outstanding. These take a lot of time. We need to, we had an individual that could dedicate more time to actually being proactive and trying to get these closed out at the end of projects. That would be very helpful. When you have new development going on, it's really hard. They're more interested in what they need to get to that CO, to get that next plat done, to get that new development done. They're not so much worried about the guarantees and stuff. And there's a lot of money out there. So we could have someone in this position. It would help to try to close some of those out, if you will. We are looking to also add some duties to this position next year, including taking care of the reimbursement agreements that we have with developers, which is a very important thing that has to be done and managed. It's a very complex database to keep up with all of what's been paid in and what needs to be paid out. Currently, that is handled by the development specialist in planning, who is going to retire at some point in the future, and those duties will transfer over into development services at that time. There's also a great need for a database and the creation of a database. Currently, the program and development services is the workflow is basically managed through 15 or so spreadsheets. That is very cumbersome to keep up with and very hard to pass along to someone else if you needed to hand it off. Anyone working with spreadsheets know that the person that created it knows it the best and uses it the best, and it's a whole lot better if you could have something like that in a more of a standard database. And last, and probably the most important reason this position needed is for some bench depth and for succession planning. So that we are in a good place when our current manager of that service division retires, that we'll be in a very good place to move forward. As y'all well know, we rate outstanding every year by the development community in the development services that we have. We continue to try to improve the program and make it more efficient, and we think we can do that with another individual. And lastly, this program has, through the bonding, we project about $55,000 in revenue this year, which could go toward maybe paying for that position. The second position we're looking at is a program support specialist for real estate. Currently, we have a staff of 1 working on real estate easement and property acquisition. I could read you this slide, but I think I can pretty much sum it up here. Why is it needed? You know, we really need to have an organized database to manage all the acquisitions and contacts we have out there, and help with the preliminary research on these acquisitions. For, you know, what is the current workload? There's 26 easement projects currently, resulting in about 111 acquisitions needed. Each acquisition has an average of about 16 contacts of various types, which equates to 1,776 contacts needed at this point just to complete the acquisitions that we have outstanding right now that we know we need. That ends up being about 7 contacts per day based on 260 working days a year, including the holidays. So that's a lot of work, very consistent, and a lot going on with that. And again, with this position, we don't have any bench depth. This would help with some bench depth, and just keeping everything organized with all the contacts that has to go and the communication that we need with the public, and knowing the feedback that we're getting and knowing where we're at in the process at any one time. Now, this we do, and also lastly, we don't project this workload going down. Everyone's seen our CIP. We know the projects we've got coming, and they all have acquisitions associated. So this position would also basically serve as a gatekeeper on the 3rd floor. The individual who sits at the front area of the 3rd floor where communications and transportation engineering is now will be moving to Public Works Administration building. So someone as a gatekeeper of that area that can also do distribute the mail, maintain the office supplies, greet visitors as they come in would be very helpful. And then we could look at this position would also help out with communications by managing the engraved brick orders for service memorial, doing quality control for business cards, and maintaining a digital archive of photos as time would allow. And lastly, this position would also be shared with the transportation folks that are on the 3rd floor to basically do public outreach, documentation, and updating the website for current projects and the Vision Zero program. And they will be there to answer general questions from the public. And then I will turn it back over to Sean.
All right. Thank you, Marty. All right, let's see here. Move the slide. All right. So the next position is the community engagement specialist. And just to summarize, you have the slides. So I don't want to read everything through you. This position is in response to a lot of what we've heard from council, from citizens, from staff, in terms of us trying to improve and increase our community outreach, our community engagement, our community involvement. And so it's more than it's more than standard communications where we have press release or we're managing our information that we put out, right? This is us trying to create opportunities to get information in. And so that's the impetus behind this position, to really give that responsibility to somebody that can help guide a lot of what we're trying to do. You can think about the neighborhood meetings we've tried to have or have had, everything from what we've done with Iron Gate in the past to what we're looking at doing over Justice Heights in the future. You know, we had to postpone a meeting there with the naming of the road, and so we're trying to work on different outreach type events. And so those are just some of the things that we know council has mentioned and been involved in. And then if you think through, and I'll go to the next slide, all the initiatives and plans we've done, whether it's downtown, whether it's housing, whether it's the master plan, there's lots of those plans that we're trying to make sure that we generate input from the community and that we capture a diverse cross-section of the community too. It's not the same people over and over. We want to make sure we're reaching out to all our neighborhoods. And so this is really a way for us to make sure we're getting into all our different neighborhoods and getting feedback. And it can be to get feedback. It can also be to just build relationships, which is another important piece of what we want to do to continue to create transparency and trust with our operations, with the things we do, the services we provide. You can see the list up here. This is a little over 20 items. This is not an exhaustive list. I want to make sure you can still read everything on the list. Otherwise, it starts getting a lot smaller. But there's a lot of important things on here. Everything from the citizen committees, environmental programs that are coming up and that we're looking into. There's the Think Apex with all our volunteers that work through that. These are ways to help connect these programs with our staff, connect our residents with council, and making sure all voices are heard as much as possible for everything, for our services we're providing, our plans that we're putting together, and to help council and staff make better decisions. that's the reason we're proposing this this position. I don't have much more to add on that, as long as you feel you understand what we're looking for and proposing. And I believe that's all 3 admin positions. Amanda, do you want to have all questions at the end, or do you want to go per department?
We can do any questions per department.
Okay, that way we don't forget. So, Mayor, Ms. Dozier, do you have any comments, questions, thoughts on any of these 3? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next section.
Yeah, I agree. It's better to take it in chunks. Mayor Gilbert, do you have any questions or concerns or things you want to raise?
No questions. Just comments. Thank you for the information, and that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of things, and I know you said this was not an exhaustive list, but I wanted to see, and I know there's some overlap. And by the way, good job in mentioning Think Apex. I think you're trying to get my support. But so I had a question, like, again, but there is overlap, but and I may have missed it, but Launch Apex, the Peak Academy, things like that. And I know, like I said, it's overlap with other departments, but where do those things lie, and would this person be working with staff on those?
Yes, so yeah, it's a good question, Ms. Dozier, because I definitely failed to mention. So this is not just this person working in a silo by any stretch. This person would be interacting with all departments. So this is an organizational-wide position. It's not isolated to just communications. That's just where we felt it fit in terms of getting information out. So this will work all departments. So specifically to the 2 you mentioned, yes, they can help coordinate with Joanna and her team with business outreach, kind of collecting that information, coordinating those events. And then you also mentioned the academy. That's another great one to work with Donna and her team and putting that together. I know Donna's usually soliciting. We have a lot of interest in that program, but in terms of if there's any outreach that needs to happen to get feedback or just to get the word out and make sure we're creating opportunities for all our citizens to be involved in that, that's something they can definitely help prepare a plan for. So it is a support role for each of the departments as well. So they can. This would be a person that would help coordinate and develop those plans for outreach, right? So not necessarily the ones guiding each of those meetings, but they could help coordinate that event, develop the plan that the departments would then use to solicit input from citizens or just create those relationships.
Thank you. Do you see this person in having to have some supervisory skills? Because we're talking about getting out in the community. It seems like that person would need to really be skilled in engagement and
Sure.
Right, and having those skills to deal with different people, especially you got people who have already been engaged and want to do more, and people who feel disengaged, and how do we pull people in? So do you see this as an opportunity to have interns and things like that to help? Would that person would that lie there, you think? Do you anticipate that?
We do, yeah, and so this is we're starting off here, right? So we're trying to get, figure out what we're building and putting it in place. And so definitely to start with, it is going to be someone that has to understand how to build relationships, how to communicate across, all sorts of events, all sorts of demographics, different personalities. So that'll be our first focus, is building that relationship. How do they communicate? And then they are going to have to be very much so a team player and someone that can coordinate as they work with other organizations and residents and visitors in the community. I do think for the future of this, as this person gets in place and we start building out what we're doing and what we're accomplishing, yes, that it would be something that is likely to need support in some way, whether it's another position alongside of it, or even you mentioned interns. Those are always great ways for us to start and create opportunities for a lot of different residents to participate and be involved. And so it would be great to build a volunteer team, an intern team, and then eventually some other staff support to help this person, and not just this person. I mean, it's this effort, right? It's the community outreach, community engagement effort that we're trying to improve upon and enhance for our community.
Okay, Thank you. And I don't have any questions about the other positions. They were pretty clear to me. Mayor Gilbert, do you have anything else?
None, thank you.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Purvis. We're ready to move on.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And Eric, I will turn it over to you. You can
All right, thank you,
request
Mr. Stone.
permission.
Okay. I requested permission. And I don't see anything popping up here on the
It's,
bottom.
okay, click on it, Eric. There you go.
There we go. Okay. I got it. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, my name's Eric Newman. I am the electric director, and I'll be talking about the positions we're looking for the 21-22 budget. You see on this slide is the organizational chart as it exists. The yellow are the positions we'll be talking about additionally for this year. And move forward. We've got 4 positions being requested. Electrical program support technician, system operator, forester, and a senior electrical engineer. The first position that's on there is a conversion from a part-time to a full-time. The other 3 are new positions with the utility. So the first one, and I'll call it the EPST because I can never remember the name. This is a conversion. We're looking to take our part-time and make it a full-time. And I'm not going to go reading through the slides like Marty and Sean had mentioned. You guys are very able to read them. I'm just going to give you a couple of the highlights on why these positions are being requested. The main driver for this is, as you all know, the electric department will be taking over ownership of a new facility starting in May, June of this year. And with that comes along a lot of administrative duties of being the sole tenant in there. And we realize that we don't know exactly all of those additional duties, but we do know that we're gonna have them. And at the present moment, our department only has a single person that is dedicated to being in the building at any one time. So we realize that vacations, sickness, and things of that nature, we need to have at least another person in that facility to ensure that we have presence in that building during the day. Outside of these 2 employees, everybody else is either in the field or is partially in the building from time to time. So we know we're going to need to address that issue. But this position is also slated to go full-time in January, so that'll give us a few months of operations to understand exactly what that role is before we actually fill it. The next one is a system operator, and this position is a pretty interesting one. As an electric utility, you know, we manage and operate an electric distribution grid, and this position will build out our capabilities as an electric utility to be able to utilize our technology, which is the big thing that we need to be able to do. We've invested a lot of money in technology, and the only way to exploit that capability is to have somebody who's managing it and using it. This position will do that for us. So right now, we're looking at integration of a new AMI platform coming down the road. That included with the load management program, our new SCADA system, and central dispatching for electric outages are going to drive the need for someone to organize and manage that. So this position is one of those that's going to grow as those technologies get brought on board. But we also envision this person being able to integrate those technologies and exploit some of the other benefits. You know, we go in there with a single idea on a technology, and you know we implement it and we integrate it. But after that, we don't do anything else. And those technologies typically have got far more capabilities, and having somebody dedicated that is using that system on a daily basis will enable us to be able to exploit those powers. The next one is a senior engineer. Believe it or not, the electric utility here does not have an engineer other than me. They always remind me, you are the engineer. And I said, yeah, I am, but I can only do so much. As we mentioned, all this technology that's coming on board requires somebody who understands it. And, you know, In the past, we've relied heavily on contractors, engineering firms to do the work. The problem with that is you really need somebody to interpret it. When it comes back and somebody presents you with a solution, you have to have somebody who's educated enough and understands not only the technology, the business, but needs to balance that with the needs of Apex. And not having somebody who's able to do that, you blindly have to accept the results of a consultant, and that's pretty dangerous. And we had when I had first got here, a glaring example. I walked through the door and there was a set of plans that we paid $30,000 to get a contractor to come in and design us a SCADA system for our East Williams substation. And I looked at it having a fair idea of SCADA systems, and this thing was overbuilt. It did everything I'm sure we wanted it to do, but it was extremely overbuilt. We since then scrapped that plan. We went out. We're finishing up the final work on that particular project. And the original design called for about $30,000 of equipment. We did it for $14,000. It required an additional $7,000 a year in annual maintenance fees, and we got it down to $5,000. So that's just a quick example of having an engineer being able to review what a consulting firm, which we'll always have to rely heavily on them for things such as building new substations, things. We just don't have that capability. But I also need somebody who's able to understand that and provide critical thinking on the results of that. The other thing is too, when we look at succession managing, myself and our technical services manager, we're in the short rows and we're looking, this person may potentially grow into either of those positions. So from a bench strength perspective, we need to develop that, and this position will do that. And last but not least is the forester. We've noticed in the past few years, obviously trees and vegetation around Apex is rather important, and we have an unbelievable arborist on our position. The problem is when we pull him out of his job, he is presently coordinating and running our crews, and when we do that, we end up hurting our ability to maintain our trimming program. So we know that there's going to be more opportunities, and we view this position more as a town-wide position. This is not necessarily strictly an electric facility position. His credentials are phenomenal, and we've loaned him out numerous times to review tree health, provide input on those things. We envision this position being expanded to provide support for the town in all the departments. So we feel this is important. The other part of this is it allows us to provide, as Marty had mentioned, when we're looking to create growth within organizations. And when I looked at my trimming organization, it was sort of a dead-end job for these guys. And we're trying to create some sort of stratification within that classification to keep those who decide to make that their career field an opportunity for them to grow over the years and maintain employment with the town. And this position will allow a fair amount of movement for somebody who gets into the tree career field, then moves up to and gets the certifications to become an arborist, and then potentially can move on to this forester position. So we feel that this structure will allow for those people the ability to maintain a long career here. And that was one of our focuses in our strategic plan that we had formed about a year or two ago, was to try to figure out how to maintain employment with the town. And one of it was to, we looked at positions that were sort of dead end. You get here and that's what you're looking at doing the rest of your career. So we've created stratification, things for employees to pursue. And it's not a matter of just sitting in time and just doing the job over and over to qualify you. There's strict qualifications that, if they're willing to make the attempt to obtain those, we want to be able to provide them an opportunity down the road to grow in it. And we think that's the best long-term strategy to maintaining qualified people in our department and keep them happy and looking forward to something else. I just can't imagine having a person sitting in a position for 6, 7, 8 years doing the same thing over and over again, and not providing them an opportunity to look towards something else. And this will help structure our tree organization such that there is future opportunity for them in their field. And I believe that was it. Any questions?
Mayor Gilbert, have any questions or comments?
No questions. Thank you for the presentation.
No, neither. I appreciate also the risk of not staffing is helpful too. And I do appreciate the other information about the consultant and sort of something being overbuilt. And I just appreciate you being proactive about that. I wonder how often that's happened and how often you've had to step in and do that role.
A fair amount of time over the last 2-3 years I've been here. And, you know, the consultants have done a good job. They have met our needs. And I think the electric department has benefited from it. And I think that's the reason we were able to get by without an engineer for so long, is we've got a system that is, you know, you hate to hear it, but it's overbuilt. It's built. We've got a lot of capacity, which is a good thing, especially since we're growing like crazy. As you noticed, you know, the town has been growing, and we haven't had to add substations and build massive amounts of feeders to supply this. That allows us to react to what's happened in the town. But, you know, had you had an engineer, we would have probably staged development in a little slower path, maybe not build an entire substation, build half of it and stage that in over time. There's things that could have been done had we had somebody who was able to understand it a little better.
Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Newman, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Let's see. Vance, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. And
Let's see,
you have control.
Okay. Don't really see that. I guess
just click on it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
There you go. And it's down in the bottom when you click on it. So it like barely shows up.
I just started my 7-minute countdown then. Thank you, Chairperson Dozier and Mayor Gilbert, for the chance to come today and speak briefly about our position or request. The first position we'll talk about is our customer service and billing assistant manager. Last year, we received a senior customer service position within our customer service division. That was the first and the only increase, additional position we've had in that area since 2007, in spite of the tremendous growth in the town and our customer base since that time. And that has helped with the workload on our customer service staff, but it is still, we still continue to have high demand on our assistant, our customer service billing manager. That and Audrey Jones, she's here with us today. I'll let her talk a little bit about that. But she is the one person in that, let's see if I can get that to move. Not having much luck with that, but she's the one person in that, oh, thank you. She's the one person in that section that is responsible for training 9 other employees. Particularly, we've had a fair amount of turnover over the years in the folks, our clerks taking the payments. In addition, if there's changes in procedure, she's responsible for that training. And she still has to perform a number of very complex, in addition to those duties, has to perform a number of very complex procedures as far as our billing. We've struggled with our software at times. That's demanded a great deal of time, weekend and evening work to accomplish that. And Audrey is with us. With us today. I'm going to ask her to speak briefly about the impact that has had upon her, as well as the responsibilities of the position. Audrey, if you'll take control.
Hi, Ms. Dozier and Mayor, thank you for allowing us an opportunity to speak with you today. I now, because of our customer increase, the numbers increased, I think we've increased about 7,600 customers in the last 5 years. Now there's much more involvement with me in terms of dealing with customer issues. Our staff continues to do a really good job with handling calls, but it's inevitable that some calls are going to get escalated. Some people just want to speak to the manager, and then some people have an issue that needs to be escalated, not necessarily because it's a bad thing, but just because it requires some research and maybe some decision making. So, for example, in December, I handled 60 customer issues. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, because usually what happens is there's research, investigation, there may be a spreadsheet involved, there may be reaching out to other entities, internal with Apex or external, that have to happen in order to handle successfully those calls. It really takes a lot out of my regular management work to handle those things, and it would be beneficial to have someone that could assist with those calls.
Okay. Also, this position would provide great help with succession planning. We have several folks within the finance department who could retire at this very moment. And we do need to start addressing that issue. Also, concerning our, how to move on to, okay, our general accountant part-time, we have added, in the time I've been here, since 2015, we've added one additional person in the accounting area, and they work predominantly with our utilities, our relationship with Carrie, our reconciling our receivables, various things such as that. But we've added no additional employees in our general accounting area. And I, quite honestly, I'm kind of proud of that, because I like to think that we do all we can with the folks we have. We try to be as efficient as we can, but occasionally that is going to catch up with you. This position would be part-time. It would be working remotely entirely. We have no space left to add anyone in the accounting area, but various types of accounting transactions they would take part in. We've just had if you look at our workload indicators there, if the budget of the town, the number of employees have increased by more than a third since 2015. General fund budget, again, the general fund and the general capital projects would be the type of work this position would be involved with. Our general fund budget has doubled in that amount of time. Our expenditures and number of projects have increased significantly. General capital projects, more than 13 times increase. Street projects have more than doubled. Our recreation projects, the budget in there, more than 5 times greater than it was. We've had some comments recently from our auditor that, they're concerned we're doing not doing some things quite as promptly as we have in the past. Imagine with these tremendous increases in budget, we're trying to track down invoices and get our various payables, things of that nature, recorded, which have been a problem in recent years. So it's beginning to reflect a little bit on us, and we want to bring this position in to help with the workload and hopefully improve in some of those areas and take a little bit of the pressure off some of the staff they currently feel now. Are there any questions? We've tried to do it in our 7 minutes. I think I got a few seconds left.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Gilbert?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. I have a couple of things. Thank you, Ms. Jones, too. Question related to, you said since December you had 60, I think you said since December, 60 cases you had to resolve. Were they related to sort of a result of COVID-19? Or is that typically what happens towards the end of the year? Or, yeah.
No, those calls were just calls that had been escalated, that, there was something that either the staff couldn't answer because maybe there's the policy doesn't, maybe we have a policy that doesn't go that far to what the customer wanted, and maybe a decision needed to be made about something. Or maybe it might have been that they felt like their garbage was missed too many times and they wanted to complain to me. I might have to reach out to GFL or other people. We get a lot of different things in the finance and utilities office with that kind of thing. So it could be anything. You know, I had a lady call the other day that, and I don't know why she got to me exactly, but she wanted, 6 trees picked up. So it could be anything. It could be people wanting me to investigate their consumption. That staff has informed them and they don't believe what the staff has said, or they disagree with what the staff said. So it could be any number of things.
Okay.
I'd also like to mention at this time that, with the customer assistance program coming along, there's going to be more cash receipt work that needs to be done, and there's going to be more cutoff processing that has to be done. In fact, we'll have to do more modification to our cutoff list than we normally do because of these programs that we're trying to implement. I can see that we would want to work with the committee engagement specialist on this sort of thing.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. And Mr. Holloman, you spoke about the general account, and I just wondered, do you have a sense of your improvement in the delays that this position would go from, I don't know, 7 days to 2 days? I don't know.
Well, we've been a little later. We've been a little later in the fall getting ready. My anticipation would hopefully we could have our records in a better shape to be audited within hopefully at least a couple of weeks, if not a month, better with the additional position.
Okay, thank you.
And that doesn't mean they'll be perfect, but we'll be much further along and in a much better spot.
All right, thank you.
And did I mention that I'm going to retire in 2 years?
You didn't. I think there was a succession planning that was mentioned, but no, you did not. So happy early retirement. You kind of excited about that.
I am.
Well, Audra's appearance will make you conclude it's an early retirement, but her years with the town would not. I believe she must have started in a high school.
All right, Ms. Jones. Thank you so much. Ready to move to the next one if you are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Once it all gets set, I think I've got it. Okay, so thank you for allowing us to come to this evening to for this year's personnel request from the fire department. We've got a collection. The number is 15, but hopefully the biggest group will go pretty quickly. A systems and performance analyst, a lieutenant, fire engineer, fire cadet, battalion chief, and community outreach specialist. To illustrate how these would go into our organizational chart, the systems and performance analyst would report directly to the fire chief, and then community outreach would fall underneath our fire marshal's office, which is responsible for community risk reduction. And then additionally, the 3 battalion chiefs, all of these things tie together, and I'll try to explain that. I've got a couple background slides which should help to understand a little bit why the numbers are what they are. Just to give you, not to get too elementary, but I just want to make sure that whenever we staff a fire apparatus, we do staff it with 4 people per shift. In order to provide 24-hour a day, 7-day, 365 days a day coverage, we do assign 4 people to the apparatus per day, and so it takes 3 shifts to do that. So simple math, 4 times 3. It takes 12 people to staff a fire truck 365 days a year. We have those positions we have a fire lieutenant, which is the company officer, the frontline supervisor, the fire engineer, which is the driver operator, and then you have 2 firefighters assigned in the back. So that's why whenever you see the group of 12, that's why we ask for 12, because it's 4 people times 3 shifts. Then we're also going to see that another piece of background, one of the big initiatives that we want to do, we were so excited and so proud to achieve the Class 1 rating, and I think there were some questions as to what's next. Well, next is becoming one of the, adding our list to the 284 accredited agencies in the fire agencies in the world. There's only 284, and we want to get into that group. And I've kind of explained, because I'll reference these throughout my presentation. A lot of the self-assessment piece that's required for accreditation the format is categories, criterions, and performance indicators. And so you'll see criterions are big buckets, and then categories are big buckets. Criterions are individual, stones in the bucket, and then performance indicators are the kind of the elements that make up the stone that goes in the bucket. So hopefully that'll make a little bit more sense throughout the rest of the presentation. Okay, so the first request would tie to the 3 lieutenants, 3 fire engineers, and 6 firefighters. And so what this is requesting staffing to coincide with the opening of Station 6, should all of that be approved. Station 6 is going on Wimberley Road. It is a place that we desperately need a fire station. The growth is tremendous in that area. And part of that area requires us to have a contract with North Chatham because it's too far away from fire stations. So we desperately need that station. And this is the staffing that would be required to staff that. So we would not be specifically hiring 3 lieutenants and 3 fire engineers. Those would be internal promotions, which would create some additional career progression within the fire department, some more opportunity. And we would hire 12 cadets. If you remember, we had hired 15 cadets a couple years ago, and we were tremendously successful in doing that. So if we are able to actually staff this station, I'm recommending what I'm calling a no experience required hiring academy, which allows us to hire people without any fire service background and be able to bring them in and train them from no experience all the way up to the qualifications required to ride a fire apparatus for the Apex Fire Department. We were tremendously successful in doing that. With the 15 that we were able to hire, we were also able to increase our diversity through doing that, which is tremendously important. And frankly, just to be brass tacks about it, in the fire service, if we don't go this route, we will never increase diversity to an acceptable level. It is a white male dominated profession, and if that's just, I hate to say it that way, that's just how it is. So this is our best opportunity. And frankly, the quality of individuals we were able to hire was amazing. And so we're very proud of that. And I do reference a CFAI, part of the self-assessment performance indicator. I remember that's like the minerals that go into the rock. The composition of the workforce is reflective of the service area demographics, where the agency has put forth a reasonable effort by instituting an effective recruitment plan to achieve the desired workforce composition. So not only does accreditation help you prove some things, it also helps you to the concept of how do you know what you don't know. You may not be thinking in terms of things, and accreditation is you're going to have to write or answer that performance indicator. And so it really will point you in directions of doing the right thing. And it not only goes to recruiting, it goes throughout the entire organization, every aspect of our organization. And there's 252 of those performance indicators throughout. And then the last thing, this just kind of shows the location where Station 6 is projected. It will be upon its completion and building. And then there's just a performance indicator that talks about the methodology, or why are you placing things in the right locations to provide the coverage and equitable coverage across the community. So that's what that performance indicator would speak to. And then just as because it ties to staffing, but it also ties to the station. If you look at this, we're third on this list that I sent a survey out, and this is out of the responses that I got back. We're covering 13.1 square miles with each fire station because I have to account for the entire 65.5 square miles that we cover. And because Apex, as you know, we have annexed areas that are not contiguous with the main core of Apex, Jordan Point, Lake Castleberry, places like that. And so they're spread out. So we have to look at it from the entire 65.5, which is fortunately, our HIPEX information, or our HIPEX district. So you can see how we compare to other departments. And if you go down to Cary and Morrisville, they're really covering 6.7 miles per. And, you know, Morrisville's a little bit of an anomaly, having a small footprint in the first place. And then we're 5th in the number of population covered per fire station. And obviously, we would be moving up that pretty quickly given the growth in Apex. So along with that, I'm requesting 3 battalion chiefs. So right now we have 3 battalion chiefs, 1 per shift. Each battalion chief is in charge of 5 stations and 7 company officers. And so that is really at the maximum level of the recommended span of control through the National Incident Command System, or National Incident Management System, and the Incident Command System, which is 7. 3 to 7 is the range, with 5 being optimal. So we're sitting at the ceiling of what is a realistic, manageable span of control. And if we're able to add the staffing to Station 6, that will move to 8 direct reports reporting to the battalion chief. So the goal would be to divide into 2 battalions, which would look like this. We would divide the department up, the operations side of the house, into 2 different battalions. And so you've got 6 battalion chiefs, 2 per day. And that brings us back down into a manageable span of control and continues with some capacity for future fire stations and growth. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the importance of career progression again. Right now, you've got 21 company officers, and those 21 funnel into only into 3 positions. And so if you think about that, that's not a lot of room for growth once you get to the higher positions. And then next is the systems and performance analyst. So this is the data analyst that I requested last year. The need is still there. It's growing every day. We desire to utilize the information that we gain through our records management system, through CAD, response times, and all of these many elements of data that are performance metrics. And we really need someone that can live in the data to provide the information to the organization to really help us build our performance and improve our performance, because we think we're good, but it's hard to know that for sure unless someone is measuring it. So someone needs to ultimately help us keep score. That's a really elementary way to say it, but really we need the feedback on how we're doing and not just assumptions. We need to be able to provide actual more in-depth response times, and this be done on a regular basis so that we can continue to improve our performance. So the impact of this would be really huge, because we want to make sure, as I said, we want to make sure that we're doing the right things. And so where we place our efforts, we need to place them in the areas of the greatest need, and be able to prioritize, whether that be through determining where, a fire station needs to be located in the future, what our response times are, and then understand why, if turnout time, how long does it take from the time we hear the call until the fire truck starts rolling? How long does that take? And if it's longer than it should be, we asked for 90 seconds. We need to figure out, if someone's at 2 minutes, how do we drop them down to 1.5 minutes? So we need someone that's helping to report this performance back. And I won't take time to read this because it is long, but this is just another one of the performance indicators. And this is actually a criterion statement. And if you'll notice, the underline just says efficiency and effectiveness are documented through quality response measurements that consider overall response, consistency, reliability, resiliency, and outcomes through all service areas. Again, this data goes throughout all service areas, not just fire suppression, medical calls, tech rescue, public education, code enforcement, into all areas. Just to give you a quick example of what that may look like, the Garner Fire Department has someone in this position right now, and this is one of the examples of a call compliance summary. This is a 1-week report that comes out every week in the town of Garner. It's pretty much a report card for their operations to understand how they're doing in meeting their response times and the standards set forth for them. You can see green is good, yellow would be on that borderline, and red, they're not meeting the department's expected standard. It's a quick visual that helps keep everyone understanding where their performance is and if they need to improve. And then, you know, I got back to this, or did I mention this earlier? There's 22 accredited fire departments in North Carolina and only 284 in the world. This is a huge undertaking that we are already embarked on. We're already working on it. This is a critical element of achieving it within any kind of a reasonable time frame. Just, you know, not being dramatic, just being honest. And if you want to compare to how many people have this as far as comparable fire departments, if you can see accredited departments all the way down to Wilmington, they all have it. And then departments that are still working down to Winston-Salem, they all have a position doing this very thing. Morrisville and Jacksonville have been able, and Pinehurst, they do not have the position. But I like to think that we're trying to move towards the top of this list, because if you talk about fire departments to emulate in North Carolina, these would be the ones. I mean, you know, because they are very strong departments that have been doing this for a long time. They're very mature in their operations. And then I'll move on to the community outreach specialist. I think that we've established the importance of communicating. I know I've heard council as really wanted to be transparent with our community. We want to make sure that we talk to our community a lot. One of the things that we heard as we developed our strategic plan, whenever we brought the community members in, was that they needed to know more. They wanted to know more about what we were doing. We do a lot of great things that I'm super proud of. But if you follow us on Facebook, things like that, we're pretty, we're nowhere close to where we want to be, or nowhere close to where we need to be. And so not only would it be to help keep improve our social media presence for the transparency about just general fire department things, operations, and things that the community may be interested in, but also to lead our public education efforts. We do public education from a very passive manner. We do it through a lot of handing out materials, but not as much interactive. And COVID will end, and we will be back able to talk to kids and give out red fire helmets and those type of things. And this person would be in charge of that as well. So it's a life safety educator / community outreach specialist. But I believe that if a fire department is reaching out to the community and they're not educating the public on fire and life safety, then they're not really doing what they need to do. They're missing a key element. So this would also help us to go in there to the home, you know, the HOAs. One of my dreams is to have the systems and performance analysts develop data for specific HOAs for the area that they're in. And we can go and present to that HOA on what's going on in their community based on what the fire department is responding to. And then we can target prevention efforts on, if we see consistent problems, then we can go in there and target some education to hopefully help prevent fires and emergencies. And again, there's just more performance indicators. Everything that I'm asking for today is supported by one or more performance indicators that are pointed out through the accreditation process. And I won't take the time to go into them. And I'm almost at my 15 minutes, or I just hit it. So the last thing I'll say is we achieved the Class 1 in 2021. Very proud of that. I'm hopeful that by 23-24, that fiscal year, that if all things go well, we can become one of the internationally accredited organizations. And so with that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Chief McGee. Mayor Gilbert?
Yes, excellent presentation, and I appreciate your candor on addressing many needs, but I mean, particularly on the diversity piece. I think that's very important as we continue to move forward with all our staff. But I have one question. I just want to understand it better. And I think I've raised this question in our budget retreat. So this is, for lack of a better word, a package deal, right? With the public safety station number 6, and then I guess the positions with the cadets and everything, getting them ready. First question is, how long does it take for the cadets to get all the way through the program? And then is it a package deal as far as, if we approve that public safety station 6?
Okay, so yes, that's a dangerous question. So I like to think yes, it is a package deal, but I'll be contrary in just a minute. If it is a package deal, we need to hire that group 7 months prior to. They need to start 7 months prior to the opening of the station. And so what that does is that gives us 6 months to get their certifications and then a month to do the onboarding and build in just a little bit of a grace period in case there's any remedial. Not, some people take a little bit longer to catch on to certain things. So yes, that is. As far as the battalion chief requirements, to add that, so instead of just the 12 for that, the battalion chiefs, could we run with still the 3 battalion chiefs? Yes, but it's going to really hamper our operations. They're stretched already. But then to speak kind of against myself or whatnot, there is a thought process that we could go back and move and relocate the resource at Station 3 to Station 6, because Station 3 and Station 1 are close together, Hunter Street and North Salem Street. What that would do that would just protect the town with the same amount of resources or personnel that we have now. But our rescue truck would have to be taken out of service and put back into a what we call cross staff. So depending upon the call, the crew would get on one truck or the other. That's just not a good methodology. Plus, it puts us out of alignment with our CAM partners, because having that closest rescue truck or closest ladder truck, either or is not a good position to be in. And we ran that way for many years. That's been the history of how the fire department has ran. But beginning in January of 2020 in January, we put the rescue truck in service full time. We took ladder 3 out of service, put it in reserve, and it's been tremendously successful. They've done 20 vehicle extrications in 2020. Some are as simple as a door pop, very quick, very easy, and some were very technical. We're better at rescue services today because we've been able to staff and allow them to focus on the rescue services. So my desire would be to get the staffing for the station and keep the rescue truck in service full time.
Okay. Thank you very much. And the accreditation I'm actually excited about for you as well. And then again, congratulations on the Class 1. Good job on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so I wanted to chime in here too on a couple of things. So yeah, congratulations. Also, that was great. And so like how you have your goal with your 20 ? I think, and I appreciate seeing sort of where we fall with other groups, and we definitely want to always be above carry. So, so it's good to see that, to have that friendly competition, and to note, the departments who are, doing the things that we like to do as well. So that's helpful. And I appreciate the self-assessment. I think just, that's also helpful. And then the way you spoke about the career progression, and also valuing diversity and equity, and the way you spoke about it very candidly, but and openly. I appreciate that very much. And I know other people do as well. See, and I think that was it. Oh, and then with the public education, and sort of, I guess, looking internally, I guess, to see whether you're meeting the goals that you wanted to, and the whole thing about the red hats, and things like that. Those are things that I think about too. So thanks for raising that, and just kind of looking internally, seeing how we need to do more. So thank you for your presentation, Chief McGee.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean,
Mm-hmm. Ready for the next one?
All right. And Mary Beth. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor. It's good to see you guys. So I'm here this evening, and I'm joined by our HR manager, Sabrina Lewis. She just started with us back in October, and I asked her to join because she has been a huge help on kind of getting together all of these positions that everyone has requested, but then also helping me kind of hammer out what this human resources consultant position could look like. So I do want to recognize her joining me tonight as well. But we are, last time I came to you, actually, I was asking for the HR manager position because we were trying to build onto the team and help with all the things that we have going on each year. And certainly it was a help having that one position, but things have not changed in regards to just how busy we are. And you've heard that from others, and I'm sure you'll hear it from presentations after this as well. But in HR specifically, there's just been a lot more going on. And you know, certainly COVID has been a part of that, but there are other things as well. And to summarize it with a picture, I'll show you something I saw online, and this is HR in 2020 and then 2021 as well, where really it's just everything is going on, so much that we have to work with in regards to not only just normal employment things, you know, days of the past when HR was really just processing applications and benefits paperwork. It's now looking at employee physical health, employee mental health, and then also making sure that we're helping them to be successful, not only in the organization, but providing resources for when they're outside of the organization so that that's not something they have to worry about when they're here. And so we really take that seriously in our department and are trying to do that. But there is also the other part of the administration from the day-to-day that we need. And so all of that really is kind of what's led to our need to expand our group, not only to maintain and be able to meet the current workload and things that we need to do for all of our employees, but then also to provide a better level of service. And so certainly this past year with COVID, you know, hopefully this will be an anomaly and moving forward, the extra things that we've done in trying to help our employees, whether it's, you know, locating childcare or trying to figure out work from home arrangements, those may go away, but that also may be a new way of things for HR and being able to help some of our employees, again, kind of with that work-life balance. And so with that, I'll start first with just kind of giving a little bit of an overview of the work that we've had over the past 5 years, and then since I've started over the last 3 years. So on that to your left, if you look at the chart, I've kind of given you a year by year at the top left of the increase of personnel actions processed. So that's any kind of promotion, new hire, separation, pay increase, position change, career progression, even things like just address changes and things like that. You can just see from FY16, 758 to the end of FY19, 1,140. And what you see for FY20 and projected in green are true exact numbers from FY20 and then the first 6 months of FY21 kind of projecting out. But I used FY16 to 19 in order to do a trend line, and that's what's in yellow there, because obviously, or if you think about it, at the end of FY20, everything pretty much came to a stop in regards to the influx of all the personnel actions and things like that, as far as, you know, we didn't hire for a few months and people weren't leaving. So I do attribute the lower number in FY20 to that, but I do think that you would see, and as we're seeing even in the projected FY21, you can see that green is based off the first 6 months already, how many personnel actions we have, and then averaging that out to the end of the year for the total. So you can see that trend line is accurate and where we should be. But that is just right now, that is something that one person is doing. That's what our HR technician is doing as far as entering those personnel actions. But for every one of those personnel actions, there is always something more to it. It's either a new hire orientation or someone having to leave and doing an exit interview with them or explaining their benefits when they leave. There's also just the whole idea of trying to get someone onboarded and trying to make sure that we've got training in place for that person. So not those numbers represent, you know, unfortunately for one person right now, what she has to do, but then it also is indicative of the workload on the rest of the team for all that they have to do for each one of those types of transactions. And then to the right, we've got the new hires per fiscal year, and also using a trend line there, you can see that that's just increasing. And, you know, the larger that the organization gets, the more that we need to have staffed in HR so that we can help support them. And especially if you approve all 17 positions for fire department, we're going to need somebody just for the fire department. So Keith, thank you for helping support my need here. But the last thing I'll just say at the bottom on this end in regards to workload is over the last 5 years, we've had a 40% increase in new hires per year. So, I mean, that's almost half of or doubling in half what we had 5 years ago. A 65% number of personnel actions, and so you see that in the top chart, an increase in that. And what you can't see there, at least I can't, and that's covered is 50% increase of retirees on the health plan. So when I started, we had about 40 retirees on the health plan, and now we've added 22. And so that's actually, I should say, that's actually just in the last 3 years, because I did that since we had started. So we really, it's just we're growing, and as employees are retiring and then we're backfilling them, you know, you're almost a 2-for-1 at that point, having to serve 2 people instead of just the 1. And then over the last 3 years, we've thankfully, thanks to all the efforts from the Personnel Committee, we've increased our benefit offerings. We've got telehealth. We have other paid leave policies. Gosh, we've done paid parental leave, paid caregiver leave, bereavement leave, a floating holiday. We're going to keep killing it and doing some more cool things with paid leave, hopefully. But all of those take time for administration and trying to help people not only understand the leave and benefits that are available to them, but getting them enrolled or getting the paperwork in place. So that takes time as well. And then we've also increased our wellness offerings. Over the last 3 years, we've started doing on-site physicals, mammograms. We've done things for the men in regards to men's health, mole checks. We've been doing everything trying to bring things to employees to make it easier for them to have access to healthcare, but then also being able to kind of know more about their health so that hopefully they can take better care of themselves, and that ultimately ends up helping the town in the long run in claims, hopefully. So there's just a lot of increase, and we are happy to do that, but it certainly does take a lot of our time in helping those. And that's not to mention also calls and things like that. And where, you know, these numbers up here represent in regards to new hires, you know, 1 person, there's also their family members that we're trying to help and answer questions to when it comes to benefits and things like that. And then the next kind of supporting reason for asking for another position is because of our staff to HR staff to FTE ratio. And so the recommended ratio is 1 HR person to every 75 full-time employees that you have. And so using just the true HR functions that we have, and so this doesn't include in our workers' comp and safety and risk position, this is how we compare to the other municipalities. So again, 1 to 75 is what's recommended by the Society for Human Resource Management. In Apex, we're 1 to 103. And again, if we add all these positions, not just fire, I won't just pick up on them, but if we add any positions, that's just going to make that ratio larger. But then you can see kind of who we are starting to compare ourselves with: Cary, Wake Forest, and Chapel Hill, right on target. And, you know, obviously as you get bigger like Cary, be more opportunities to let that spread be a little bit higher. But for us, you know, it really is impacting not only our service levels, but also how we're able to do things. And so I have there at the bottom that, you know, while the employee ratio is definitely important, because that does also indicate that our staff may be spread thin and really overworked, it could also indicate, or does indicate, that we're likely doing more transactional work than transformational work. So where we really want to be ahead and be doing strategic things moving forward, we're so busy in the day-to-day that we really can't get to some of those more strategic items. And that leads us into my last slide here, which is a service model that I would like to move to. And this is where, again, Sabrina has been a big help in trying to figure out how this could look for us. So what I've provided here, and some of these terms are very private sector terms, but there's absolutely no way or no reason that it can't be something that we can do here because it works. And so what this does is, by having an HR consultant and then with an existing position, potentially reclassifying that, our goal would be that you would have our HR centers of excellence, if you will, to the far right. So those are kind of our experts within our department. That's Sabrina with all the expertise she brings in human employee relations and recruitment and position and classification things. You've got Amy, who is really focused on doing the full recruitment piece, including assessment centers and how to get out there and recruit for the different types of employees that we need. And then also working with Mark and his safety and risk role, and then myself for workforce development and planning and things like that. So you've got your experts, but then we could have these consultants that you see here to the left that then we kind of feed into to help provide resources to them, but they ultimately are kind of that front line to the organization. So what our thought is that if we had 2 HR consultants, again, reclassifying one position and having this new position, they would break up the departments between the 2 of them, and then they would be that first stop kind of a triage, if you will, for anything HR related. That way you can say, hey, your HR person is so-and-so, and they can help with anything from onboarding with new hires to first level employee relations issues, answering benefit questions. So the nice thing about that is it not only kind of divvies up the workload between two, so it's not falling all on one. You also get backup for each other. And then they also can spend more time with those specific departments to really dig deep into what those department needs are. And so if there are employee relations issues that they're seeing, they can come back and talk to our HR experts about, okay, what kind of training can we put in place, or how can we work with them on recruitment strategies? They can even go out and spend time in the departments, which is something we don't have an opportunity to do right now, making us more accessible, but also kind of being able to see a little bit more about what's going on at each level.
Mary Beth,
And then
you're out of
yes.
time.
Thank you. And then I'll end up just saying the last one is the HR operations. That would be our technician that we would keep. And that's really more just the data entry and then keeping things kind of transactional and also reporting and things like that. So the service model ultimately would just help us to provide a greater level of service to the departments across the organization. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mayor Gilbert, do you have any questions or comments?
No, just want to say hello to Sabrina. Haven't met you yet, but and also definitely strong need with staff, increase, clear indication that yeah, we need this. So thank you. That's all I have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for sharing the information and sort of the ratio and what best practices is. Best practices are, I guess. All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Manville. Up next. Let's see here. All right, Mr. Brown, are you and your team ready?
Well, yeah, we are, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here, Mayor Gilbert and Mayor Pro Tem Dozier. I've got a few folks with me. Angela Rinke is here, our Parks and Greenways planner. Carl Lyon, our Recreation Programs manager, is here, and also Craig Setzer, our Park Operations manager, is also here to help me answer any questions that you might have. The first thing I'll say is that you've got a lot of information in your new personnel booklet that was sent out. I think it's pages 40 through 45 that talk a lot about a lot of the responsibilities and the duties. So I'm not going to, I don't have a lot of slides that where I'm going to read you a lot of duties because you already have a lot of that information. The other thing I'll share with you is that all of these new position requests are related to either new facilities that are coming online, and that's Pleasant Park, which the first parts of that will come online in October, or the senior center that will come online. The move-in date is scheduled for June. And Ms. Dozier, I know you and I have joked in the past that we wondered if that facility, I see you laughing, if that facility would ever happen. And you certainly deserve an awful lot of credit for that. We walked through it the other day. You are going to be incredibly proud of that facility when it is built. And I look forward to coming back for the ribbon cutting because it is going to be a very, very special facility. And then the other thing that you'll notice with the new positions, one is associated with our ongoing greenway and connectivity efforts. All of these things are things that the council has set as very high priorities. And so we're looking forward to what's coming in the future. If you look at the organizational chart, you can see how the different positions are slotted. One of the big changes relates to Pleasant Park, and that is because that facility is proposed to have its own manager and basically its own operation. Still be under the department, but would primarily be its own operation. You can see the positions up here that are requested. Let me see. So if I go to the next, all right, how do I get it to the, okay. Which one is it? Which one takes me to the next slide?
Request control, John, and then I'll.
Okay, so gotcha. There you go. All right.
All right, you've got control now. Yeah, if you click down about where you are, you'll see the arrows should pop up. There you go.
There, perfect. The first position is the customer service specialist for the senior center. This was a position that was proposed last year. You might recall it would be similar to the front desk we have here at the community center, and also the front desk at the Cultural Arts Center. Be a full-time position. Again, it was brought to you last year. We pulled it out because we weren't sure exactly when the facility was going to open. So now it is, we know the opening date. It's supposed to open in June. So that's the first position you're going to see. And whoops, what did I do? Sean, can you take me back? Yep, there we go. That one. Okay, and then the next request are for Pleasant Park. Again, this is a $37 million facility, 38 million, somewhere in that range, maybe a little more. But it will open. The first parts of it will open in October, and these are the positions that are proposed out there. The park manager will oversee the day-to-day operation. Recruit tournaments, special events, oversee all the rentals, supervise all the LSE positions, and maybe most importantly, recruit and manage the sponsorship and donor program that will be associated with Pleasant Park. The next position is the customer service specialist that would be at Pleasant Park. That position will support the park manager. Again, be very similar to what we have here at the front desk, at the community center, and at the Halley. Will be the first point of contact for park visitors, process registrations, handle a lot of the financial transactions that will go on out there, interpret policies and procedures. And then the next thing I would just say is just remember this is a 92-acre site. That has to be maintained and looked after. So obviously, you know, the park operations team leader, specialist, and worker would be the primary people that would do that. There is going to be a maintenance facility out there. The uniqueness of this facility and what there is going to be nothing like this facility. Certainly in North Carolina, and I would say probably regionally. All of the facilities that are proposed out there are going to be synthetic turf. The splash pad and amenity area, which I know was something, again, Ms. Dozier, that you were really interested in a couple years ago when we first started planning. That particular facility is going to be really special. It's going to be a 1-acre amenity area that will include splash pad, nature play, environmental education. There's going to be, and let me click to a different slide here. This is the park itself. You can see it's the 92-acre facility with what we are confident will open by the end of 2021. You can see there on your left, and it will be probably a 2-year, maybe 2.5-year project that will, before it is finally completed. I was going to mention the amenity area, and I think it deserves a little bit of discussion, and I want to compliment Angela for being the lead person in designing this area. It's a little over 1 acre. You can see some of the features. The splash pad area itself will be something more like what you see at, I say Disney World, but it will be something much different than you see in any other municipal park anywhere. I'm confident of that. If you look up in the far left-hand corner, I believe that's it. That structure is will be There's no other structure like this in North America. We are working with a company out of Germany that has been looking for a place to locate this type of structure in North America, and they have chosen Apex. So it will be truly a destination, something that will bring people to Apex, will bring people to the facility. I would argue maybe even more than all the synthetic turf and all the tournaments and that kind of thing. So it is going to be something incredible and very special. And obviously you have to have people to maintain something that is like this. I'll move on to calling it park administration. This is a 30-hour-a-week parks and greenways planning technician. It is very similar to, patterned after the planning technicians that we have here now, but would be focused on working with Angela on the parks and the greenways. I apologize for how small the print is on to your left, but those are all of the developer involved public greenways that are being built in Apex. Angela oversees all of that. Got another slide in a minute. Matter of fact, I'll just pull it up. This is the Beaver Creek Greenway, the Apex West Greenway, and the Middle Creek Greenway. These are all kind of Apex projects that will be starting in the next, certainly by the end of the year. And these are all, or at least the Middle Creek, Beaver Creek Greenway, were both funded by the bond. Several of these have grants that have already been received from Wake County and also LAP funding. And so those projects are going to start very soon. And then, let's see, and then this is sort of the culmination of the greenways where we are. We have 26 active greenway projects that Angela is managing, in addition to serving on the TRC, handling a bunch of different special projects like our donor gift and donor brochure that we're hoping to get rolled out here in the next few months. 23 developer funded greenways that eventually, when they are built, will be turned over to the town for maintenance. She's also going to be the lead person on the update of the Parks and Parks Recreation Open Space Master Plan, which will start in the next few months. You can see on here, we've got about 10 miles of greenways that are planned. And then there are 7 different greenway corridors that need to be studied or in some process of being studied. And again, I would just point out, particularly with the greenways, that is something that the council has and citizens have continually expressed as a very high priority. So that's my spiel, that's my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, and my folks will be certainly happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mayor Gilbert?
No, thank you for the presentation, John. And I know you'll be back next year to do another one, so thank you.
You know, you're probably the one person on the planet that could get me to consider that.
Well, I'm pretty offended by that.
Well, that's because he and I have joked about how that's not going to happen.
So I wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, thanks for joining us from the Dean Dome, one of my favorite places to be.
I know that. I know that.
I was there for the first game when it was called the Student Activity Center.
Yes.
But anyway, so on the senior center, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That has been something that I wanted to do very early on, and it took us a while. So I'm really happy. You know, if you remember that one of the council meetings, I said I'm going to be pretty grumpy if by the time I'm able to get to the senior, and I was the second youngest person on the council at the time, so I'm gonna be pretty grumpy if I am eligible by the time it's ready. And so doggone if I'm not gonna be just about eligible.
Well,
So,
the funny thing about that is, Ms. Dozier, is that, we talked about it being open, and, it's me that's not going to be here when it's open. You are, and I'm really happy for you, because I know you worked very hard for it, and it's been something you have really championed. So you're going to be very proud of it, I promise.
thank
Hey,
you.
Mary Beth.
Oh,
Sorry, Miss Dozier.
that's okay.
Mary Beth, do we need to go ahead and ask them for the authorization tonight for a recommendation?
Yes, I didn't know if you wanted to do that now or later. You want to do that now?
I figured we could do it now, and that way John and his folks could jump off.
Okay, just briefly, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, there is a request to go ahead and recruit and fill this year for the recreation customer service specialist position. Excuse me, I can't talk. So that when the senior center opens, we will have someone to staff that front desk. So we were going to request this past year or last fiscal year, and then decided to wait until we knew a little bit more concretely when the senior center would open. But if we could get approval for that tonight, then we can get it on the next available council meeting for approval from the whole council.
Okay, so so kind of that's a question related to that. Well, I guess if John's not going to complete that role for us, I guess we have to,
Hey, we had not thought about that.
But it's a great retirement job, John. But I also was thinking at some point, will we reach out to Resources for Seniors to see about working with them as far as helping with funding that? But I'm fine with that position. What about you, Mayor Gilbert?
Absolutely fine with it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor Pro Tem, we have been in constant contact with Resources for Seniors. We haven't really talked to them about funding, but there is an office over there that is set up with them in mind, where they could come in periodically and offer services, for seniors and that kind of thing. And Allie Pulaski, who oversees our senior programs, has been in constant contact with them, and they're certainly just as excited as we are about having that opportunity. So we did plan for that and did kind of prepare for that.
Okay, that sounds great. So all right, so what you need from us is just all you needed really, is to just say that the two of us are good with that, and then it would go on to the consent agenda for the next council meeting.
Yes, ma'am. That's perfect.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. A couple other things is I'm glad to hear that the gift and donor brochure is coming out, and about the splash pad. That's something that we talked about a long time ago. And Ms. Ken and I, we actually she showed me photos from Michigan. And so really happy to hear, because one of the things about a splash pad is that it's more accessible for children who may be in, have mobility issues, or, have a short-term disability or something like that even. And so I'm really happy to hear that we're going to get a splash pad in this park, and just all the various activities that will happen there. And that it's in a low-income census block and in Apex. So I think there's a lot of good things about that park and all the things that you spoke about. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. All right. So if there's nothing else, then I guess we'll move on to the next one. So you got yourself a recreation customer service specialist.
Thank you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, John. Ms. Dozier, Mayor, the planning is up next. Shannon, are you good? Or Diane, whoever has control, y'all are good to go?
Yes, I am ready to begin.
All right.
And Diane is here tonight as well to help answer any questions that you may have. But thank you for the opportunity to talk about the two positions that we're requesting for the Planning and Community Development Department. The two positions are proposed for our long-range planning division. So that's the division that I manage. We currently have 2 GIS staff, a long-range planner, that's Jenna Schaus, and you've seen the great work that she does. You haven't yet gotten to meet our new long-range transit planner, Allison Coltrane, but you will soon. And so then the two new positions are a housing program manager and a housing and community program specialist. The intent is that I would supervise the program manager and initially supervise the program specialist, as we're hoping that both positions would start in July. But ultimately, once our program manager is up to speed, they would then take over supervisory responsibilities. So the need and justification for the housing program manager request is really in the plan that Town Council just adopted at the first of this month, our new Town of Apex Affordable Housing Plan. This is actually the priority recommendation in that plan. So the first recommendation in the adopted plan is to increase our town staff capacity. This is seen as a critical recommendation for everything else in the affordable housing plan. The plan also recommends that we look overall at staff capacity to determine what other support may be needed, and that's really where the second position request is coming from. The plan notes that we lack housing staff to oversee the implementation of plan recommendations. In addition, our steering committee discussed at length that prioritizing a housing manager as soon as possible was their request. This recommendation from the plan, as well as the formation of the Housing Advisory Board, are the two recommendations that address every goal that's set out in the Affordable Housing Plan. None of the other recommendations touch every goal that we've established. So we really have a playbook kind of ready to go for the housing program manager. They would be responsible for overseeing implementation of 13 of the 14 recommendations in the adopted plan. So the only one that they wouldn't have is addressing town staff capacity, and that's what we're trying to do now with these two requests. So all other recommendations, including the Housing Advisory Board, advocacy and public education, as well as the 9 programs and policies in the plan, would be under their purview. We have been able to get started on some of these, which is excellent, but we really need an expert to take the reins and move these initiatives forward to the extent that you would expect and that we'd like to for the citizens of Apex. The second position, the Housing and Community Program Specialist, we're categorizing as full-time temporary. That's because we would like to tap into the Lead for NC Fellowship program that the town has already been able to leverage successfully in the past. We really see this as a win-win. We would be able to have the advantage of having somebody who's already been identified as a promising young leader come to help us with these new initiatives. And that person would then be able to benefit from getting exposure to working for a local municipality and see just what it's like to have this type of position and hopefully increase their civic responsibilities in the future. Oops, so small. There we go. So the role of the second position would mainly be to support the housing program manager. It's going to be a big lift to carry forward all of these recommendations. So they could do things like data analysis and research, help with coordination and logistics, help to pursue grants. We are also expecting that they would have some capacity to assist with the extensive community engagement that we like to do in our department. And there's some photos up here of things that we've done in the past we always endeavor to do more. And having a position like this would help our planners and experts really be able to focus on content and strategy while we have assistance with things like managing contact databases, organizing emails, providing the hard material that's needed for these types of events. So there's a definite need to have this type of assistance for the outreach that we'd like to do. And then just briefly to touch upon logistics and impact, I've already gone over that these positions are really critical to the success of the affordable housing plan. In addition, this is a new area of skill and expertise that we just don't have among our existing staff. I think we've been learning quickly and we've filled in the gaps, but we would love to have an affordable housing expert really take the reins on these recommendations from our adopted plan. In addition, our existing staff are truly either at or above capacity already. You're not intended to be able to read all the words on this graphic, but this is where we track all of our active tasks. And so I have a good handle on what everybody's doing, and they are working hard. So that this graphic over here just represents some of the things that I'm anticipating we will be focusing on over the next fiscal year. We have 4 near-term recommendations in the affordable housing plan to tackle. In addition, we're working on Go Apex Route 1, collaborating with Public Works on the Vision Zero action plan, downtown design projects. We're anticipated to take the lead on the transit-oriented development planning initiative, and then of course have ongoing multimodal planning, prioritization, and development activities. And with that, we're ready for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cox. I have folks in here moving around, so a little bit of a delay there. So Mayor Gilbert, do you have any questions?
No question. Thanks for the presentation showing a strong need. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any further questions for you at this time either. Thank you so much for laying out there too of how the housing plan too, how it ties into the request that you're going to be responsive to. So thank you so much for that, Ms. Cox.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, ready for the next one?
All right, I think Deputy Chief McKinney is heading this one up. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right.
For better or for
worse. Let me give you control. All right, there you go.
Okay, so believe it or not, I'm going to try to get through these rather rapidly because I anticipate a few questions for some of the positions, and I want to talk for just a moment about theme and support. All the presentations that we've heard today really talk about this theme of span of control. Some things, just some notes that I jotted down is several of us, Chief McGee and I think Mary Beth, are thinking about and have been thinking about leadership succession, and I'm going to use Mary Beth's discussion about transactional versus transformational processes, and I think that's very, very critical to what we're dealing with within the police department and why we're making these requests. We were asking for 8 positions. One of those positions would be reclassifying from a part-time position to a full-time position, and when we get to that one, I'll cover that. But so if you can, I'm assuming everyone can see the chart in front of them. This is our current staffing chart with each of the position requests as they would appear for each one that would be approved. Is highlighted by, I believe that's an orange color. I'm a little color colorblind, so bear with me. The only caveat I would put to that is the police crisis counselor that we will talk about may or may not end up exactly where they are. We're still kind of trying to determine what that is. So I give you that real quickly for transparency. I do not see my advancement in the corner. Mr. Purvis, am I missing it?
No, just click on right there. It'll show up when you click on the screen. There you go. Yeah, it's really small and barely visible.
All right, let's see if I can do this. All right, so these are the positions that we're requesting: a CAD RMS administrator, a lieutenant over criminal investigations, an additional patrol lieutenant, the digital forensic technician, a civilian support service manager, a captain over special operations. The evidence clerk is the reclassification position, and the police crisis counselor would be we envision that being a licensed clinical social worker attached to the police department to support our current needs. All right, so we talked about span of control. I'm not going to go into a great deal about that at the top because I think Chief McGee and a couple of the other presenters have covered that ad nauseum, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. But obviously, it's very clear that Apex's population growth is driving our need for additional staff. When I first made the jump over here, it was because of the reputation of Apex. I wanted to be part of the peak of good living. We often refer to the 2015 National Magazine article where we were considered the #1 city in the nation to live. But I would ask everyone to consider, just as recently as 2019, we were in the Wall Street Journal as being still the #1 quickest, fastest growing suburb in America. And we kind of vacillate between first and third place, depending on where we're sourcing out that data and how they're doing their metric. But I can tell you candidly, I really can't tell the difference between first and third place. And I think we can all agree to that. But one of the themes for us, and I do think this is important, is some of the negative aspects of not having enough span of control that we're seeing. And I want to emphasize that the personnel requests that we have regarding additional supervisors or managers have really been identified not only in our 5-year staffing plan, and some of those positions have been requested before, but we have gotten to a point where some of those are very critical needs. We have identified significant issues with narrowing span of control. We want to create a more intimate work setting. We want to be able to, in response to some of the data we've gathered in the cultural diversity assessment, improve inclusivity and openness for staff to have access to their supervisors in a more personable way. We want to increase communication and clear up some of those communication hurdles. But also, and this unfortunately is one of those negative aspects for not having quality span of control, is we want to be able to provide direct feedback, timely feedback to address performance and accountability issues. And we feel like, and I think everyone that's part of this committee can agree, that we have a significant high liability risk with our staff just because of the nature of our profession, and we understand that. And part of responding to those issues is the ability to have more direct supervision. And we, at the end of this, we feel very confident that our data supports these requests and will continue to do so. So let's take a look at them, take a look at that data a little bit, because it's kind of an ancillary support mechanism tied directly to our population growth. this grayed out area here, at least that's what I'm seeing on my screen, you're looking at calls for service. The yellow block are dispatch calls, and the green bar graph that you see are self-initiated calls. So this 5-year study shows that our dispatch calls that number is staying relatively static. And I will tell you candidly, if you go back to 2015, that number is relatively static, but there is a significant increase in our self-initiated calls. And especially when we start looking at 2020 and we kind of take in the optic of dealing with this COVID environment, we were not necessarily getting the same type of calls that took up a lot of the officers' time. So our expectation for the officers were they would be more engaged in more self-initiated activity, whether that be being out on foot patrol, property checks, traffic initially was low because people were not having to travel to work. They were teleworking. That we're still seeing some of that, but we're also seeing a significant increase now that we're starting to come out of that of traffic related calls. So to be very candid with you, we're not sure what that means yet. We want to kind of analyze that a little further, and we're in the process of doing that. The next data set, though, I think for us is also critically important and supports why we're making the requests that we're asking the Personnel Committee and Council to consider. So if you look at the green bar, you're looking at our Part 1 crimes. These are the numbers, basically the number of arrests, closed cases, and serious offenses that we've dealt with beginning from 2011 to 2020. And we have, again, maintained a static data rate with that. And that's critical for us and critical for the town, because that means we're keeping the town safe effectively. If we have some kind of unusual high spike in that particular number, we all need to be asking what's driving that. And yes, there are factors, people's decision making and their decisions to engage in criminal activity do drive that number some. But our ability to be proactively visible and out making good community contacts, and for the community to talk about seeing Apex Police in their subdivision or in their community, or just all of that communication, both positive and negative that we get, shows people that look at that metric that we have one, that we're visible and we're active. And it can serve as a deterring kind of factor for keeping that number low. Now, obviously, as our population grows, that increases, unfortunately, the number of people that can be victimized. But what I would like to point out is our numbers are not egregious when compared to our peer cities. We've been able to manage our call volume pretty effectively. And I would submit that the reason we've been able to do that is a credit to the council's ability to look at some of our previous requests and match those pretty significant jumps in population, even in the short time I've been here, by giving us the staffing and resources that we needed to help manage that and mitigate that. And we're very comfortable right now, and I'm kind of sticking my neck out here, but I get paid to do that. But we're very confident now that just basic staffing resources, i.e. the number of patrol officers that we have, are, based on comparisons to the call volume, meeting the needs of the community. Where we're seeing a significant need, though, is the ability to directly supervise and manage those officers for training purposes and for developmental purposes. And I say that because we've seen an increase in the number of internal personnel actions we have involved with supervisors saying, okay, there's a behavior issue here, or there's a training issue, or whatever that particular work-related issue or function is, there's been an increase in that. And that's separate from the outside world looking at what we're doing and giving us feedback and asking us, why is this happening, or filing complaints. So we took a hard look at that as an executive staff and said, what's really driving that? We're hiring good quality candidates. We're giving them the same training, and we've actually increased training. We've given them exposure to more advanced skill sets. So what's driving that? And one of those predominant factors that we see driving that really appears to be that span of control issue, and the fact that we've got more staff than we can comfortably and effectively supervise. So I want to use the captain over the Special Operations Division as kind of my lead-in example to that. So we're asking for an additional captain. Again, this is part of our 5-year staffing plan, and this will help us kind of parse out some of the patrol division, the current patrol captain's responsibilities, and kind of help them share the load. So one of the reasons that we want to do that is, one, we've been asking for that position for quite a while, but as we increase the footprint of schools in our community, for example, all of our SROs fall under that. All of our Special Operations Division staffing resources, Directed Patrol Unit, and our Traffic Safety Unit, all of those resources fall under it. And just under that one unit right now, we have 36 people that a lieutenant is tasked with supervising, on top of project management and reviewing data analysis. And that's just too much for that one individual to be able to effectively manage. And as we again increase the infrastructure and the number of people coming in, those needs are going to increase specific to that unit. It'll also free up our patrol division captain to kind of be able to focus more on executive projects, project development, and it helps us with leadership succession. And at the end of the day, it really is going to significantly improve our oversight ability. So the other one of the other positions that we're asking for is our police crisis counselor. We want to be able, we have been very focused on improving and enhancing our ability to support the mental health needs for the members of our community that we interact with every day, or visitors to our community. This is part of our core mission. It's part of not only Apex PD's mission, vision, and values, but the town values. So we want to be able to connect individuals that are experiencing mental health crisis with the appropriate resource or group in a more holistic way. We also want to have an individual that we can dedicate to doing some follow-up with them, so that we're not tying our law enforcement staff up with dealing with those issues when, one, they don't really have the adequate training to do that beyond a basic level, and two, we want, yes.
You have 5 minutes.
I'm rolling through quickly. So basically, we're looking at putting on we're requesting a social worker to be able to meet some pretty significant needs that we've all observed that are occurring in our community in a better fashion. So we have a very limited ability to do that now, and that'll continue if we can't get that position put in place. All right, our CAD administrator, I will quickly say, with the upgrades that we've done and the infrastructure that we've implemented with the CAD rebuild, just some quick numbers. From 2015 to 2018, prior to us implementing having our own CAD, we had about 61 calls for help support through our current provider. When we moved to the infrastructure upgrade, from 2018 to 2021, with most of these calls being 2019 to 2021, that increased to 560. So that average went from about 20 calls a year to about 187 IT/project/ we're having issues with our CAD system calls per year. So we really need that position to get all the functionality of our CAD RMS system working correctly. Our digital forensic technician, we have asked for that position in the past. Unfortunately, what we're seeing and what's driving the need for that request is our limited ability to call upon our peers who are currently supporting us in pulling digital forensic evidence for us and helping us in those investigations. It's starting to diminish. It's starting to diminish for two reasons. One, the fact that those types of crimes are our fastest growing crime, internet-based crimes, computer-based, phone-based crimes, and technology-based hardware that we need to access have exponentially grown. None of that's changed, Mr. Mayor, from your time when you were the CID commander. It's increased exponentially, and we are piecemealing getting through that. We are inefficient, and we're not getting enough information quickly enough to really meet our needs, and that's going to continue because Carrie is supporting us by giving us some of that help now. So is the SBI, but even CCBI is saying we just don't have the resources right now to answer all the calls and requests that we're getting for that service. So many of the departments are moving to an in-house digital forensic technician. We want to try to hire a civilian for that, and we desperately need it. I will quickly say the patrol lieutenant is really tied to span of control. We have basically 2 patrol lieutenants right now. We really need to move to having a 3rd patrol lieutenant to be able to more adequately cover. We currently can't cover the town hours-wise. We're piecemealing that where we have a lieutenant here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for a block of time, and then we have one covering Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for a block of time. I'm sorry, Saturday for a block of time. Sunday, we don't have that mid-level management coverage, so that's why we're asking for this position. Our support service manager request, we would like to take those responsibilities away or transfer them from the support services sergeant, who is swamped trying to manage an extremely large fleet and also meet the needs for the community policing unit and supporting building infrastructure and working as a liaison with facilities to meet our needs. And Sergeant Myers is just overworked, and there's just way too much volume of tasks for him to adequately manage everything we're asking him to manage. The last position that I'll talk about is the evidence technician. Basically, our volume of tasks, the number of pieces of evidence that we're continuing to have to process, the number of requests that we're getting are growing with the rise in population. We're talking about like just simple things like found property. When you have more people in your community, they tend to find the property that other people in your community have misplaced. So at a real basic level, that all of our metrics are up, and that's why we're asking for these positions. And I will stop control and try to take questions.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Chief McKinney. Mayor Gilbert?
I don't have any questions, just Deputy Chief McKinney, thank you for your presentation, sir.
Tried to roll through it. I didn't want Amanda to send one of those chat messages telling me to shut up and move on.
Yeah, I got concerned. I thought you were going to start talking about public works for a minute there. So,
hey, they need help too. We all need help, and and it's for the same reasons. So I can support my colleagues, and we're in it to win it, though.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we move on, so I just thank you for your presentation, and I just noted a few things that you mentioned about some of the themes that I saw that really looking to have not just reactive approaches but proactive ones. Evaluation, looking, acknowledging some of the things that you spoke about, acknowledging those things, and then what the approach would be to attack, I don't want to say attack those things, but to address those, the things that you spoke about, so that, people can work better together. I think that's a really great thing that you brought out here. Appreciate that. The feedback, and then how the positions would feed, like with the new captain, what would come under that particular position. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I just appreciate those things that you brought out. And of course, I know, but the crisis with the position, I forget what the police crisis counselor. I appreciate, we've been talking about that. So I guess that person would work hand in hand with the other staffer that's there, but I understand that position really is, for people who don't know, but really is more focused on a particular thing related to interpersonal violence, right? Whereas this is going to be a broader scope, right?
So yes, so how we envision that working is they would work with Danica, probably be assigned to Criminal Investigations Division, but be accessible by the patrol staff or any staff member that needed them for a particular call. One thing that didn't come out in our conversation this morning, Mayor Pro Temp, or in the presentation, was also their ability to provide in-house mental health services for individuals, for our staff that town-wide that would need or want them. And that's a huge benefit for us, because I think, based on my experience at Chapel Hill that has that unit, once we overcome that trust issue, which will be there, people will want to take part in that and use that resource. And my only concern is overwhelming them both with our community needs and our in-house needs. But I think it would go a long way in supporting our mental wellness initiatives that the town is in such support of, and it's just a great position that's long overdue for us. It will enhance our service capabilities both internally and externally.
Thank you. I appreciate your the team approach of looking at public safety and public health. Thank you so much. All right, so move on to public health. Thanks, public works. Thanks so much.
See you.
Ms. Dozier and Mayor, I'm sorry, Jose, before you get started real quick, I just want to interject, and I know we have Jose, Mike, and Donna still, and I want to make sure they get their time. We are right up against Environmental Committee, and we only have capability to stream one meeting at a time. So I just want to put that out there to kind of, if we can move as quick as possible while still making sure that you get your questions answered, Ms. Dozier and Mayor, and the others have their time to present. So just letting everybody know that. Jose, I'll give you control as soon as you request.
Can you remind me of the stop time, the hard stop?
Well, we had scheduled 2 hours from 4 to 6. So,
okay.
So it's when we're kind of at that right now. So it's
gotcha.
It's up to kind of however you want to manage that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, you're good to go, Jose.
All right. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Miss Mayor Pro Tem. Great to see y'all again. Thank y'all for your time. I will say that we are in the short roads right now, and I promise I will not take my whole 10 minutes, so I'll go right through this. But so Public Works is looking for 4 positions this year, and 2 of the positions are frontline positions. They're there so we don't reduce our level of service. And then 2 positions are what was referred to transformational processes. That is to introduce a new process and or to change responsibilities. 3 of the 4 are pretty straightforward. One of them we have to talk about a little bit, but we'll start with the frontline workers because those are the easy ones to discuss. So the first one, grounds maintenance technician. Right now we have a crew of 4 that really is responsible for 510 acres and 96 plus miles of easements cutting annually. What that equates to is pretty much 4 cycles per year. We are required to do this for one, aesthetics, because we do get complaints, but the second is because we have to maintain access to the easements for water and sewer to get back there in case there's a sewer overflow or a water break. So one of them is mandated, the other one is for aesthetics. With 4 cuts a year, we do absolutely do both of those. I believe we could get by, there is no set standard with as few as 1, but I'm sure once I said that, Mike's probably itching a little bit, but I wouldn't recommend any less than 3. I think 4 is a good number. We could probably do up to 6, but we just don't have the manpower, and I wouldn't recommend it because we have other needs. But right now we're getting ready to grow about 4% on new easements every year. This is new construction, but we're also spending money reclaiming existing easements that haven't been maintained. That's where really big trees have grown, and it's some that I know Water Resources has been spending money the last few years to reclaim those. So this one position will just give us more manpower. So right now we do, again, about average 4 cuts a year. If we keep growing and we don't add, we won't be able to maintain that 4 cuts per year. And as I was going through this, I did not ask for this, but as I was thinking about it, this would be a really good candidate for an LSC. So I didn't ask for that, but really, if we could get this as an LSC, and that way we would hire them over the summer for the growing season, that might take some demands off for some of the other needs within the town. But we can absolutely use a full-timer, but if this one just can't make it happen, we could absolutely do a LSC as well. So for the next one, all right, this one's another straightforward. Our facility maintenance, right now we operate or maintain just under 250,000 square feet. And this year, as you know, we're having 2 new buildings being constructed. And that's, of course, the senior center and the electric building. So that's going to increase our building by 20%. Right now, we have 4 people maintaining it. Simple math. We don't want to get behind, because when we get behind on things like preventive maintenance, that's when things kind of start breaking, and then it costs us more to maintain if we're not doing the proper maintenance. Additionally, since we hired our last supervisor, we have been taking a lot more stuff in-house, so we've been more efficient. We have been more cost-effective for the town, so and we want to keep doing that. So everything we can do in the house, we have been trying to, and this is really just reflective of a 20% increase to new big buildings. So that was another easy, straightforward one. So this is one that we may have to talk about a little bit. So I'll go over the background. This is for a data operations specialist. We have one now, and we have a data operations technician. So the data operations specialist is really CityWorks centric. She has done a fantastic job. We have over 184 people within the town that have been trained on CityWorks AMS, which is Asset Management System. And she had really gotten to know all the processes. We don't create any processes. We go with ride-alongs with every department, find out what they're doing, and then how to make their lives easier. So everybody across town is our customer, and she's done a fantastic job bringing CityWorks really as a tool that's been used every day by just over 1/3 of the town. So CityWorks AMS is for assets that we already own. That's the backside of a project. But when a developer has a twinkle in his eye and a new idea of a great subdivision, there's no assets, of course. So at that point, when they first come to planning and say, this is what we'd like to do, we create a project. And at that point, that goes into PLL, permits, lands, and licensing. And what happens is these projects then would be used by pretty much every department that would be a part of that project on the front end of it. That's water resources, that's engineering, transportation, mine, plans, permits, code enforcement, zoning, and others. And we would track that project, and all the information would be relatable to everybody else that needs it. And then when the project has assets on the ground, it seamlessly transfers over to AMS. So PLL is before, AMS is the after. So right now we don't have CityWorks PLL. So this is something that really we were always planning on doing. And the reason why that we kind of started saying, hey, we need to do this now is because there was actually Water Resources was actually looking at a program to do some of the work that PLL could do. And it went backwards and went through like CityWorks to us saying, hey, they're asking, they have this RFP out. It is something CityWorks does, talk amongst yourself. So that's when we started talking again, and I say, hey, this is something absolutely we can do, but we don't have the person to run it. And this is pretty much the next phase of the process. Now, I don't call this CityWorks personnel. These are data operations personnel. So what this one would do would actually be PLL centric, but also have additional capacity to work with other departments for their department specific programs. I talked with Eric over in Electric, and what he was saying was, and he mentioned a person to run the programs, but he said, well, I really could use Melissa, which is our AMS person, to help develop the processes and do exactly what we did with CityWorks for his processes, get it up and running, get it good, and then grow it, and then have them take over. Fire department also has something called Fireworks, which is something in the same type of customer-centric program. It's data operations, is how they do their day-to-day data work, but they haven't had the capacity or time to implement that. So this person, while they would be a CityWorks PLL centric, the data operations is really what customer needs help. So this is the the growth of where we will be going with CityWorks. And then our last one, another straightforward one, but this one has been begged by my operations manager. We have 34 people under streets and yard waste, and right now we have no administrative support. So my operations manager, my streets supervisor, and my yard waste supervisor, they do all the work themselves, and they have been begging because now they're doing a lot of overhead work, keeping track of some basic stuff that they're not out in the field doing what their expertise is. Just for comparison, Water Resources has a person in this position, Electric has a person in this position, and these two guys do not. So, see, Chad, my operations manager, actually was talking about it. He said, I really need a full-time person, but if they're going to cut it, I will take a LSC. So he was begging for it. And that's my 4. 2 frontline, 2 office. Questions? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for that and putting the flexibility for what you would accept. So, Mayor Gilbert, do you have any?
Yeah, the same thing. Thanks for your flexibility and great presentation. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. All right,
Absolutely.
ready for the next one.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm up next. And let me see. For the sake of time, since I'm new at this and my possibly fumbling through.
I got you.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Sean.
Yes,
Please allow me to read what I'm going to read what I wrote, what I was going to present. Okay. I believe it is 100% safe to say that the clerk's office is the only area in this organization which, from day one, has not added any personnel, no matter the workload of the office. The same number of people who perform the work in the clerk's office from the inception of the town is the same number of people who perform the work as the workload, the town's population, and demand for services grew. Georgia Evangelist, the clerk before me, asked for a deputy for years. I've asked several times since I've been here. So a deputy has been requested going back at least 14 years to help with the operation and maintenance of this vital office. The requests have consistently been turned down, or unsatisfactory alternatives have been suggested until last year. It took the newly added deputy clerk only a few months before she asked how in the world I had survived this job. She saw what was not done, what was not up to standard, and how far behind the work had fallen. Quite frankly, this was embarrassing. With adding the deputy last year, it physically, meaning people-wise, put the department where it should have been 14 years ago. In some respects, we are that many years behind in the work. We are desperately trying to catch up, but we continue to fall short. Therefore, the requested LSC administrative position would help to continue on the path to get the clerk's office in a position to better be able to keep up with the demands of the office. The LSC would begin with the laser-fiche efforts of all records in the vault for security and preservation purpose. All one needs to do is look in the vault to see the number of minute books dating back to the town's inception that need to be handled, along with all documents in the legal file, a shelf of committee meeting minutes, a shelf of background information, and several bins of historical documents. It is not hard to understand that the laser-fiche process, which includes labeling all those documents, will take months and months to complete. And this needs to be done by one person using one method by an established process so that any information will be able to be accessed in a consistent and logical manner. Additionally, the number of people allowed in the vault needs to be limited, thus the ask for an LLC and not a temporary person. The deputy and I are currently operating with full plates. Even so, we have taken on council initiatives such as planning and executing activities for Women's History Month, the MLK holiday, Black History Month, and Juneteenth. As time goes on, the daily workload will only increase, not decrease. We will additionally continue to be responsible for initiatives and other tasks set forth by council. The administrative assistant would be a definite asset in helping to ease the workload by processing staff and public general information requests, data entry in both the legal and cemetery databases, email notifications, and the reading of information for the current and future academies, assisting with other activities involving presentations for the public, such as Black History Month, handling mail, making runs to the post office to mail documents to the Register of Deeds, or taking these to their office in Raleigh when COVID is no longer an issue, having a person in the office when both clerks are attending professional conferences and academies, and other such duties which may be applicable at the time. Apex is fortunate to have hired a deputy who has a keen understanding of those duties which belong in the clerk's office. She has been invaluable to me in pulling in tasks, such as creating and maintaining a database of council committees.
1 minute.
All right. Boards and commissions into our office where this function should be. We know that there are other such tasks that can be identified and brought into our office, as is the standard process for the majority of clerk offices in other municipalities. The administrative assistant's ability to take general tasks off our shoulders would allow us the opportunity to be creative and think out of the box for ways to move the operation of the department forward and to finally get our office working efficiently to serve the needs of council and the organization as a whole. The addition of the administrative assistant would also present an opportunity in our department for some degree of career progression.
Thank you, Ms. Hosh. Mayor Gilbert?
No, thank you, Ms. Hodge, for the information, and look forward to supporting you. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, thank you for drawing on the history, because I don't know if everyone knew that, and I didn't know that, how far back that went, and sort of the main project that sort of helps not just us but the community. So thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Donna. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, you're good to go. Next one. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Oops. All right. All right, Mike.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Dozier and Mayor Gilbert. I hope you guys are having a good evening. Hope you're ready to go home, because I'm ready to go home. So we're going to make this pretty fast here. That org chart that you see on the screen right now, that represents Public Works Admin Building. You've got the inspectors on the left, and on the right side is primarily our stormwater group and our sustainability group. So I'm asking for two positions tonight. One is the sustainability analyst, And then the other one is the environmental specialist position. Oh,
Yeah, ask for control, Mike, or I can do it either way.
okay. I'll do it. Sorry.
No worries. All right, you got it.
All right. Let's go to the next slide here. Oh, back one. I'm sorry. I have poor eyesight these days, and I can't see anything. So I'm going to let Sean take back over control here. All right. So let's play a numbers game here. Let's make it quick. Let's remember the number 4. Let's remember 450, 725, and 245. If you take nothing else away from water resources tonight, those numbers mean a whole lot. It means a whole lot to a dedicated staff of professionals who take a lot of pride in their work and love coming to work every day and providing that level of service, those conversations with the public day in and day out. And that's what these numbers represent. So 4 is the number of times I've asked for this position in a row. 450 is the number of stormwater control measures that we have constructed in town. They are private. They can be problematic. It's a lot of maintenance, and a lot of inspections, a lot of record keeping, just a lot of everything with those. And so that number is important because that is taking up a lot of staff time in our stormwater program. 725 is significant because that's what we're looking at in a few short years. So, Ms. Dozier, I know you live in Bella Casa. You know, you've got about 20 or 30 SCMs out there in that neighborhood. Every one of those require maintenance. They require annual inspection. You've got neighbors who live around them who complain about them. Sometimes it goes to HOA. A lot of times it comes to us. So they are 700, will have 725 headaches in the future to keep following up on. This is federally mandated. We can't just simply give them to the HOA and forget about them. We're ultimately responsible for all 450 current SCMs. We're going to be responsible in the next few years for 725. And as we continue to grow, there's going to be more and more. We'll hit 1,000, at some point in time in the future. So that is something that the town needs to look at and make sure we're staffed appropriately, because they will generate a lot of complaints, as you probably already know. Next slide, please. Hey, Sean, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. 245 was the next number that I wanted you to remember, and that is significant because that is the number of drainage concerns, or I like to call them complaints, that we responded to in 2020, January through December last year. That is enormous amount of complaints. You can see it raised dramatically and from last year. And if you ask me why is that, I would have to say, well, obviously, one, we've gotten a lot of rainfall here lately. But two, the density that we develop in Apex, the small lots, big houses, lots of impervious, nowhere for that water to go, creates a lot of problems, especially when the homeowners shell out $700,000, $800,000, $1 million for these homes. They expect it to be perfect, and so when it's not, they call us, and we go and respond. That response is very thorough. It reviews construction drawings, plats. We call the homeowner. We set up a meeting at their convenience, and we go out and explain. A lot of times we get an earful. A lot of times it's a private issue. Sometimes it's public. And when it's public, we take responsibility. We enter that information into what Jose was talking about in CityWorks, the asset management system. We'll put a work order for the street department to take care of the public issue. But when it's private, that's a tough conversation to have. So it's very time consuming, and it's very disturbing that we're seeing an uptick the way we are from the previous years. So I'm hoping that we dry out pretty soon. But I don't see that happening, and I really expect the complaints to continue to climb as we grow. We do not develop large lot subdivisions. We don't have homes on acre lots. We don't have that room for that water to sheet flow. So it concentrates and it causes problems. So if we want to continue to provide that peak of good living level of service that we currently do, you know, that's going to take more staff because those complaint numbers are going to continue to grow. So that's the justification for this environmental specialist. They will be a customer service specialist when it comes down to it. So the next position.
One meeting, you have 1 minute remaining.
Okay. The next position is the sustainability analyst position. That position currently is filled. It's not a sustainability analyst. It's a LSE. It was a 1-year fellowship from the Lead of North Carolina program. They started in July of 2020. It ends in June 30th. This position reports directly to Megan, our sustainability program coordinator. They've been both working great together. They've been vital in the new sustainability program, streamlining and providing assistance for the Environmental Advisory Board and the various sustainability efforts. Val Mara is a great employee. She's a great fit in water resources and really across the town. And so, it would be an awesome opportunity to provide her a permanent position in the town. And this is what that sustainability analyst would be. And the next slide, we don't have to go through, but that's just a few of the accomplishments that they've been able to do in just 1 short year. I'm afraid if we don't fund this position, if we lose Val, then, that program would stagnate a bit. And these bullets that we really want to move forward would just sit there. Kind of like some of those bigger projects that we talked about at the retreat we want to see moved along. Well, it's going to take some staff to help do that. And that's what this analyst position would provide. So with that said, I'll turn it back over to Sean. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deaton. I don't have any questions. Mayor Gilbert had a 6:30, so he just jumped off, I believe. But
I'm still here. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Deaton. Thank you so much. Yep.
All right. Thanks so much, Mayor. I don't have any additional questions. Thank you for explaining the role from the lead internship into the analyst, and then providing some of the ideas about the achievement. That's very helpful. Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Purvis?
Mr. I do not have anything else. I think that's all the presentations, and hopefully you've got an idea of what we're looking at and what we'll be considering to propose in the budget. And I know you're well aware of all the needs that we're working that we have. And our goal is to really look at those priorities that council set and know that we have to increase our capacity. And so the positions that help us achieve those goals that council is looking for us to do, that's our next step. So, but I don't have anything else, and unless Mary Beth or Sabrina or Amanda do, I think it's your meeting to call.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Mr. Purvis. Thank you for those who are able to watch or watch later on, and thanks for the team that put this together. This has been really helpful to go along, not just to look at our packets, but to have the dialogue and to see people face to face in a way is very helpful. So thanks again for putting the presentation together, putting it all together, Amanda, and being their timekeeper as well.
I tried to.
You did. I appreciate being able to have some questions answered for me too. So I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. I know there's another meeting that needs to take place. I do have a couple of points later, but we can talk about that later with the mayor. Just some points, some key takeaways I think from all the presentations that are really helpful for me to just talk a little bit more about it. But thank you so much, everyone, and have a good night. And thanks for staff for hanging out and those who got a chance to jump off early.
Thank you, Ms. Dozier. Have a good evening.
All right.